Hello. It might be me. First of all, I'd like to thank my wife here, Nora, for not only putting up with me for 44 years, but also being the real guiding hand behind Adele through her childhood, through school days, through college, through university. Like most fathers, I got involved when she could really communicate when she was about 23. I'd also like to thank, of course, Karen, Trevor, and Sean, for their tremendous support, truly tremendous support today, and also for their friendship. I really do mean that, for your friendship, but I think it's about to be severely tested. As I also thank them for raising this diligent, upstanding young man. I do use the word upstanding loosely because, I do use the word upstanding loosely because in my experience, in my house, he's normally not standing at all. He's usually lying down on my couch, drinking my beer, whiskey, Jack Daniels, vintage aged Macallan, special edition. That hurt. And then the crazy thing about all this is that a few weeks ago, I was invited to his stag weekend. Can you imagine that? Me, his future father-in-law, been invited to possibly the most raucous, debauched weekend of all times, and he invited me. Now, the question is, did I see anything that was raucous? Certainly, I'm still recovering now. Did I see anything debauched? Well, no. I mean, the beans I could spill now, but no, not really. There was an incident with a Henry Hoover, who I think was forced. See, I just heard about this. I hear he was forced out the closet and didn't want to be outed, but that's all I know about it. There's nothing more to it. But you know, what I did do, and I mean this most sincerely, I met a terrific bunch of lads. And those lads were a great laugh. We had 3 really good dates, and my recovery is getting by bit, but I'm getting there. And there were some interesting little games. There was a kind of, bake-off. There was like a bake-off come drink-off, where you get a litre container and you fill it, and I must admit, because I enjoy cooking, but I've had to make a note of these ingredients because it requires some memory. But there was a litre container, and in it you put in there was whiskey, rum, vodka, gin, beer, cider, leek and potato soup, salsa, hummus, and a careless moth. Actually, I think it was lucky for the moth because Josh was after that at some stage, and I think he might have slightly have ruined his appetite. But as I said, it was a great weekend. It was a great weekend. I'm feeling a bit shaky now because I said great weekend twice there, and what I mean by that is my therapist. I'm sorry, when I say therapist, I mean my psychiatrist told me to say great weekend as a mantra to get over my PTSD, and that's post-traumatic stag disorder. But this all kicked off with Jonathan coming to see me, and I knew it was coming. He was going to ask me for Adele's hand. And he came into my lounge, and I said to him, Jonathan, there's no need to kneel down, you can get up. That's for later on. But the point is, the reason why I sympathise with him, why he was so nervous, there was never going to be any boyfriend, any suitor was ever going to make the grade for my beautiful little girl. And when she was 3 months old, I built a mental barrier around Adele. There was a barrier that nobody could penetrate. No one's ever going to break that barrier. But with Jonathan, he made the grade. And I've happily dismantled that barrier over the time I've seen him. And more importantly, I'm glad, really thrilled to call him my son-in-law. And better than that. What English is it? I'm better than that. I'm really proud to call him a very good friend. I've got money on this. And also, there's a very special thanks I'd like to offer, and that is to my son, Andrew, who, we had a stag weekend, and he had a day and a half, 2 days, and he flew all the way from Dubai for a day and a half and flew all the way back to Dubai. I think that's a marvellous gesture, I really do. Okay, It's also really great to see some of Adele's friends here, some of the school friends, with Sophie, a rather bigger Sophie now, nearly two Sophies coming up, and Kimya back there somewhere. I'm trying to look where Kimya is, and also university friends, Sarah and Kylie and Amy. Amy, a meeting I will never forget. You're not expecting this, are you? That very first meeting with Amy, we were moving Adele to Leeds University. So there is a thing actually called the PSS. If you've got to, Google it, and it's the perceived stress scale, and it goes kind of from arguments to fights to battle to war to Armageddon to moving your daughter to halls of residence. We got stuck on the motorway, so our plans were going down the drain anyway. And by the time we got to the halls of residence, there was one parking space, and it was neatly one parking space because it said no parking. We put the car there, and then I had to get lots and lots of stuff up 2 flights of stairs, and there was only me and Adele because there's no room in the car for Nora. So we got all these boxes, bags, suitcases, you name it, she's got it, it's up there, into her rooms. And as it's all over the place, I said, Adele, we need to get some sort of organisation here. And Adele was like, oh, this is wonderful, I love all this. I said, yeah, but hang on, we need some sort of organisation. Suddenly there's and Adele jumps over all the boxes, opens the door, and there's this blonde-haired girl with a big smile on her face. She says, hi, I'm Amy, your neighbour. And she buggers off with her, and I'm left with all this stuff to try and clear away. But anyway, it's great to see that they've remained such good friends ever since. Also, we'll stick on Adele now. Well, I've put a few stories about with Adele, but Adele, unfortunately, and I might have, it doesn't matter now. Adele suffers from, and she's getting better now, but she suffers from something called MES, that's another acronym, sorry about this, which is mouth engagement syndrome. So she's got a tendency not to start her brain before her mouth opens when she says a few things. And when she was doing her GCSEs, she'd be about 15, she came downstairs, and we used to have to drag her out of her room at times. She was so studious. And we took her out of the room. She came downstairs into the lounge, and Nora and I were sitting there. And she came into the room, and she's going like that, I said, what's wrong with you? This is the absolute truth. Are you okay with this? And I said, what's wrong with you? And she went, oh, Dad, I've got what you had. Syphilis. I said, you mean tinnitus? Sorry, Adele. But I never thought Adele would ever be a naive young teenager, because when she, and here you come again, Andrew, when she and Andrew were she was 6 years old and Andrew was 8. And if you remember that film Big with Tom Hanks, and they were lying on the carpet in front of me and they're watching this film, and I thought it was a good film. And if anybody that doesn't know it, what planet have you been on? But just to go over it, it's a 10-year-old in a 30-year-old's body. And they're lying down watching this film, and it's the seduction scene. I have to get a bit graphic here, I'm sorry, just close your ears and eyes and all that. But there's one bit where Elizabeth Perkins gets Tom Hanks' hand, and she hies it up to her left breast. And Andrew went, oh, what is she doing? And Adele said, if you don't know by now, Andrew, you never will. I moved quicker than Usain Bolt to get that remote control over her arms. But Adele actually is, apart from being my pride and joy, Adele is a very, very studious, clever girl. When she went to school, she came out with 11 GCSEs, 5 A star, 5 normal one, 5 A's, 3 A levels, a 2.1 in law at university. She was always in the school team. She was very sporty. She was in gymnastics, swimming team. The football team, in fact, Solihull Borough, where the international Karen Carney honed her skills all those years ago. She ran for Clapham Chasers. She did 3 half marathons, which I think were 1:35, 1:36, and 1 hour 37. It's her ambition to beat her uncle Eugene, who did 2 hours 56 in a formed London Marathon, which is a superb time. So Eugene, stand up there, you'll see who we're talking about. She also this year did 3 Peaks. And when she went to university, she went into the Marks and Spencer's graduation scheme, where she met the love of her life. That didn't work out, so she settled down with Jonathan. I'm sorry, Jonathan. And then she spent, I should have done that, didn't I? Then she spent 6 years at Marks and Spencer's before she was headhunted by a company called Compass. And there's a couple of stories here that spring to mind. Compass go after people in retail who are also a little discerning about their food. So they headhunted Adele and she went to see them and all that. And a little story I'll come out with here is, when she was at university, she came home one day and we all went out for a gastropub meal. And Adele was rabbiting away 10 to the dozen, talking to me and Nora about all sorts of things. And she ordered a big quarter-pounder burger, all the trimmings, and we ordered like chicken and scampi or rye vita and toast or something like that. And when we had our food, the waitress came over and she said, everything okay? Yeah, sure, great, fine, thanks, service great, yeah, thanks very much. Thinking he's after a tip, this one, but no, it's fine. And then when she went back, I noticed the kitchen staff all looking in our direction and two of them are pointing at us. And I saw them reverse the waitress round and she came hurrying back over again. She went over and looked at Adele and she said, are you sure everything's all right with your food? And Adele sort of, oh yeah, I mean, you're a bit sharp, aren't you? No, everything's fine with the food, no problem, it's all good. And she went, madam, are you sure your burger's okay? Now she'd eaten half the burger. So she opened it up and there's no burger. It was still on the grid in the kitchen, and that's why they're pointing over at us. And this woman's about to go to a food company to tell them how discerning she is about food. And the other story about Compass that comes to mind is that because she was in Clapham living in London, she hadn't driven for 6 years. So she said to me, Dad, I haven't driven so long, can I try in your car? I said, yeah, of course you can. So we went off to a little industrial estate, swapped seats, started the car, and Adele was already getting a bit nervous. She hadn't driven for a long time. And she said, just before I said, go on, you might as well drive home. And just before she sets off, she said, Dad, just remind me, is the middle on the clutch or is it the... And then she drove off. My God, the look at my face. She also, there's a weird thing about this, but for some reason, she sees me the font of all knowledge. So whenever, you laughing at, she would ask me something and then she would trot out whatever I said to also unsuspecting audiences without any source material, any looking at anything, just say it. The only time it ever came almost true was when you'd been to a management meeting and she was talking to me about a week before this meeting, and it was about Compass getting price increases from Unilever, and Tesco's were objecting, they couldn't take this on. And I said to Adele, that's never going to happen. Dave Lewis is the chief exec of Unilever at one stage. He jumped ship to be the CEO of Tesco. He knows where all the skeletons are. He won't do that. He cannot possibly let them accept those price increases. She went along to this meeting and just almost vomited the exact words out front that I said. And her colleagues were all, oh yeah, good research here. No, I don't know where I got it from, but she told that story. Okay, let me just have a quick swig of water because my mouth's getting dry. But what I'd like to say now, just concentrate more purely on Adele. Adele will always be my little girl. She's full of energy, joie de vivre, caring, kind, generous, gracious, just a really nice, always been a nice, pleasant little girl. And when she was 6, my father was very ill in hospital. And I was the only person that lived really close to him, so we'd go to see my father. And we used to go there, and we go there, my father had chocolates and he had papers and flowers and fruit and all that on his bed. And opposite him there was a man that had a severe stroke. He was much older, probably in his early 80s. And he looked pitiful. He had hospital issue pajamas on. His stroke was so severe he could just about move a couple of fingers on his right arm, and he could kind of grin and that was it. And as we came out of the hospital, Dale was asking lots of questions. Where's his family? What's wrong with him? Blah, blah. And I said, look, Dale, that happens sometimes. It's one of those things, but it's sad. It's really sad. But anyway, then the next night, I picked her up from school, and we went to see my father. And as Adele sat and gave my dad a hug and sat on the bed, she jumped down, and she's only a little dot about that high, and she took out something out of a satchel. She trotted it over to this man and put a card in his hand. This is absolutely true. He looked at the card, barely looking at it, and his eyes welled up, completely welled up, and a tear went down his face. And I'd like to ask you now, if you could open up the envelopes on your tables, please, and have a good look at them. Ned, finish.
No.
Oh, I thought you were saying get up. Now, if you could look at that photo's travelled in my suitcase, wallet, everything, you name it, for 28 years. All around the world, it's never ever left me, and it's constantly on my wall in my office. And that is what I think that old man saw. That's the picture that he saw of this generous, giving little girl. And this little girl is my beautiful little girl. You make my heart burst with pride every time I see you. You know, I don't think you realise it. And now, and today, as I walked you down the aisle, it was the most memorable time of my life. My heart was bursting with pride, and I'm blessed to have you in my life. It's been an absolute honour. My beautiful daughter, my little girl, as she and Jonathan begin their married journey in life, I would please ask you to charge your glasses and stand as we raise a toast to the bride and groom.
Bride and groom.